Most bankers aren't ready to help you until after their third cup of coffee. But with Central National Bank's after-hours service, you don't have to wait for the bank lobby to open to get help. You can contact us from 6 to 8:30 in the morning or from 5 to 10 in the evening, and we'll connect you to a real, live, local person who can answer questions and fix problems 7 days a week. Bank different. Bank Central. Central National Bank. Member FDIC.
Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Welcome to Women's Hoops and Talks, the What Podcast, where we are elevating the voice of women in basketball. We are part of the Almighty Baller Network. You can find us as part of the Blazers Edge podcast feed. I am Tara, joined as always by Kendyl. How's it going, Kendyl?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, let me tell you how my night was. This is how it started off. I have a wonderful friend named Teresa who is starting a pet sitting business. So I did what a good friend does, and I wrote a long and loving post on Facebook to all of my Facebook friends telling them that they should go and look into Teresa's pet care because she's amazing. So my Facebook is connected to my Twitter account. So when I post something on Facebook, it automatically goes out. So it went out on Twitter. But since it was like so long, it got cut off in the most awkward place possible. So this is how it ended up. This is what I wrote. My friend Teresa is starting a pet care business, and I know she is just what you would be looking for. For as long as I've known her, since our kids were in first grade, she has been a compassionate and kind lover. And it's supposed to say of animals, but that's where it cut off. So that's what I've been dealing with tonight.
Oh, jeez. You got a lot of messages about that after?
I got a few,
Yeah.
I need to step away from Twitter because ever since the NBA Finals has been over, it's just been burning and melting down and awful.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So how are you feeling? And how did you feel about the NBA Finals?
Well, I made it.
Did you watch all of them? Like all 4 games?
I did. I had to watch them live for work. So, as much as there were definitely a couple that, or towards the end, I was over it. I really was tired of watching it, but I had to. So, yeah.
It was such a bummer because that first game was so great.
Yeah, the first game was really good.
It had absolutely everything except for a Cavs victory. I mean, it had drama, it had ref controversy, it had LeBron just going absolutely heroic. It was amazing. And it was so good that a natural conversation just grew from it for days. And then game 2 happened and it was close. And then game 3 happened and it was like, no. And then I went camping for game 4. I was like,
yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. Game 4 was just rough to watch.
Where do you fall on the Golden State is ruining basketball spectrum?
I am all for it. I completely agree with that statement. I think I have no problem with the dynasty, but I think the problem with them is that it's not even a challenge at this point. It's not even like people are coming and like trying to take down the dynasty. It's just like they're there, they're untouchable, it feels like, and it's not fun to watch.
And it's just us to endure it.
Yeah, and I think I've said this before, where what the best part of sports and what makes sports interesting and fun is that you don't know what the outcome is going to be. It's the thrill of like having no idea what's going to happen. Anything could happen at any moment. And that's what makes it fun. And with the Warriors, like, you don't get that. Like, okay, yeah, every once in a while there's a good game or they lose a game or whatever, and it's fun, but it's like, okay, they lost a game. Like, cool, they're going to win the next 10. So it's like, it's not very, like, I think the most exciting it's been was their series with the Rockets. But that's like the most exciting thing that's happened in a couple of years with them. So it's like, I don't know, since like the finals when the Cavs won, I think. So for 2 seasons, that was the most exciting thing that happened, was that they went to 7 games.
Yeah, I kind of look at it. I try to look at it in the light of, I don't think that they are ruining basketball, but I think basketball is changing, and I think they are an instigator of that change. And whatever basketball evolves into next is going to be a direct result of what they were. And I think that's really interesting, and I think that is really important. But I totally agree with you that it's not fun to watch, because I think it's really sad that it's only exciting when they lose. I mean, that's a bummer, you know? It's like, you want to appreciate every team, and I suppose I appreciate the basketball, but I don't like watching it, because like you said, it's like, it's so consistently good that it's like, it's exciting to when something goes wrong, because it just makes it like more interesting.
Yeah, and I think the difference between them and like most dynasties that you think of from the past is that people, even if they weren't a fan of the team, they tuned in to watch that dynasty. Everyone wanted to watch Jordan's Bulls. Everyone wanted to watch like the big 3 in Miami. And like everyone wanted to watch those Showtime Lakers, like all those teams. People looked forward to that. And with the Warriors, it's like no one looks forward to it. The only people that do are Warriors fans. And I think that's what's so different about their team versus other dynasties in the past. And like, if you look at just purely ratings of the games, the NBA ratings are growing. They're getting bigger. Like, a lot of other sports are dropping and NBA is getting better. But when it comes to the finals, title clinching games of like the final game of all of Jordan's Bulls, all of his final series, Showtime Lakers series, the like D Wade and LeBron Miami teams, like their finals, like clinching games, all of those ratings for those final games went up because people tuned in for them. For this series, Game 4 ratings went down.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, and I think that speaks a lot, is that a lot of people say, oh, well, it's not bad for ratings. And well, it is. People are getting tired of it. And the fans who are watching it, typically a lot of fans are just watching it because it's like, it's the finals. I'm going to watch it no matter who's in it.
Yeah.
I think there's still a lot of those fans. And I know that's, for me, as much as I didn't really want to watch like the last couple of games, I still would have ended up watching most of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, but I don't enjoy it. And it's like, it's bad. Like, it's not fun to be a fan of a league where all of a sudden you stop enjoying the finals.
It's like exercise. Like, you know, you have to do it, but you're not going to enjoy it. And then when it's over, you're like, yeah, I watched some good basketball, but I really didn't enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because you don't want to, like, you watch it because you don't want to be like, oh, I'm a huge NBA fan, but I didn't watch the finals.
Right.
Like you can't say that.
That's true.
Yeah.
On the Open Floor podcast, with Ben Golliver and Andrew Sharp, they were talking today about what would be, somebody asked him a question about what would be the catalyst for the end of the Warriors dynasty. So do you have any ideas what you think it might be that is the beginning of the end?
Yeah, so I actually was just having this conversation right before we start recording. So a lot of reports came out today about different rumors, things athletes have said, whatnot. It came out that the Warriors are possibly looking to trade for Anthony Davis.
God,
so
because that's exactly what they need is more.
Yeah, exactly. So if they trade for him, obviously they have to give something big back, which means they would have to either give Clay or Draymond. Those they would have to give one of them. It would most likely be Draymond. Well, The problem now is that now that that's public knowledge that the Warriors are looking for that, Clay and Draymond are aware, which means that they're aware of they're possibly going to be getting traded. So both of them have one more year on their contract, but can opt out this year. They both have said that they want to stay, but Clay hasn't really commented on whether or not he's opting out to try to get more money, or he hasn't said one way or the other. Draymond came out, he either said today or yesterday, or he said it recently, that he is opting out and he's going to try to renegotiate and get more money. So the problem with that is that the Warriors don't have the money right now. So if he tries to re-sign this year with the Warriors and did a max deal, he's actually going to be getting close to $80 million less than he would be if he waited till next year.
Oh, that's a lot less.
That's a lot, which means he's either going to, what he's trying to do is get more money, which he can't really do right now. So he's either going to take a pay cut or just sign for enough. Like, what is he going to do? Like, the smart decision would just be stay for one more year and get more money next year, because he's not going to sign a 1-year deal. So if he signs with them, he's going to be losing a bunch of money. If he wants to get that max deal this summer, he's going to be leaving. He also has the idea of, if he signs a max deal right now, he is a very good person to trade. Right. Because they're like, well, he just signed a 5-year deal or a 4-year deal. So Clay is in the leverage where if he doesn't opt out, they're probably not going to want to trade him for a 1-year deal, because if they trade him to the Pelicans, he's not going to stay there next year or after next year. So I think that that's interesting, because then it's putting them in a position where it's like, now 2 of their 4 All-Stars are feeling like, okay, so we're the 2 that are on the chopping block, but we're also trying to get more money. And so I don't necessarily think this is going to happen, but I could easily see Draymond leaving this summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that Draymond
he wants the money.
Right. I think that he could be the one, or he wants, and I think that he is more valuable. You know, he has a lot of intangible. Well, we all know that. This is like stating the obvious, but I think losing him would be more impactful even than people realize.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, just look at the finals where he was ejected.
Yeah.
Or where he was suspended.
Right, like, where they lost the finals because of that.
Yeah, like, there you go. Like, and I think obviously, like, yeah, Clay is an amazing player, but they can win without Clay much easier than they can win without Draymond.
Right. Right.
And so I think he's in a powerful position right now, because I think they know that, and they want to try to sign him so that they can get Anthony Davis. But then I don't think he's going to want to sign if he knows there's a chance that he's just going to get traded for Anthony Davis. So I think that's going to be pretty interesting.
So one of the key players walking away, you think, would be the downfall?
Potentially. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't necessarily think it's going to happen, but it's definitely a possibility. Mm-hmm. And CJ McCollum, actually, so if we want to bring it back to Blazers, he actually retweeted. So today he quote tweeted, Bleacher Report put out that Draymond's, it says he's expected to turn down the extension. Mm-hmm. So, and he hopes to earn a super max contract. CJ quote tweeted and said, "Get your bread, Dre, or leave."
CJ's got a lot of opinions on Twitter these days.
He does. I think he's bored.
I think CJ might need to step away from Twitter for a little while.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of. I think Draymond now. I think obviously he does care a lot about winning, but it's like he has 3 rings now.
Right.
I think if he's like, okay, I stay and you trade me, or I leave and did a max deal, he's going to choose the max deal. He has his 3 rings. So now what? Now he can go and.
So their success might be their downfall.
Yeah.
That would be,
then Kevin Durant opted out of his contract, or he signed the 2-year deal. He opted out, and he said he wants to renegotiate for more money. Again, what money? He took a pay cut last year because they didn't have the money. He took the pay cut so that those 4 could stay together. So now it's like, if all these players suddenly are like, okay, well, Steph just signed the biggest contract in NBA history, so where's my money? I had to take a pay cut, and I think that's where the problem is going to be. Is I think it's they're going to start having that issue of they all want their money and not all of them are going to get it.
So I have an alternative theory, and this is the last I want to talk about the team from the Bay Area because we've given them plenty of shine. This is my alternative theory. So you know how the rumors are that LeBron is going to take a meeting with the Golden State Warriors? So this is what happens.
Yeah.
LeBron has a meeting with the Golden State Warriors. They bring in the Hampton Five, and LeBron leaves the meeting, and he takes Iguodala and Klay Thompson with him.
Oh,
That
brings
would
him
be
away.
amazing. Can you imagine if one of these meetings ended up like that? I obviously know that is not going to happen, but it just makes me laugh so hard to think about, because LeBron is so powerful. And granted, maybe his powers are waning just a little bit after losing the finals recently. But I could just see him walking into that room, and them all thinking that we're going to convince LeBron to come. And he's like, "You two, you're with me."
Yeah. Well, I think that the whole idea of him taking a meeting, I think that's all false. I don't think there's a chance that they are trying to have a meeting with him. And I don't think that even if they were, I don't think he would ever do it. Because like what like that would ruin his legacy. He would lose all of his fans.
Yeah, he would never do it.
He would not be able to get paid. Like, okay, he gets a couple more rings. Like, I don't think he cares that much about the rings to like ruin everything else.
That's why I think he's even allowing this rumor to get out there, because he's just going to go and he's just going to like steal a couple guys right out from under him. I just absolutely love that scenario. Well, let's move on and talk about a couple more things real briefly. So Philadelphia had an exciting week a couple weeks ago with the Twitter scandal and Colangelo. And honestly, while it was breaking on Twitter and everybody was freaking out about it, they were like, "Oh my God, you got to read this article. It's amazing." And so I was like reading it. And by the way, the article was like 900 million words, which was like 899 bazillion too many. It was super long. So I was like, basically, Colangelo may or may not have several burner accounts where he's saying mean and proprietary things about the players. Am I missing anything? And people were like, no, that's pretty much it. So a lot of people were like, this is the greatest Twitter story to ever break. And I really don't think it was the greatest. I still think DeAndre Jordan being held hostage in Dallas was the best Twitter story. But this was pretty interesting. So what are your thoughts on what happened in Philadelphia?
Honestly, I don't have like a super strong opinion on it. I think that this is a lot more common than like people think. I think that he was dumb about it. He got caught.
And he threw his wife under the bus.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. And then and people who are blaming her completely, like, I'm sure she had a part in it, but like, she couldn't have just known that information on her own. Like, that's only information that like he was getting from the team. So like, clearly, like, yeah, I think that's all ridiculous.
He told her, she inappropriately shared it, but then he didn't try to like protect her at all. He was like, it was her. She did it. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing was just, it was ridiculous. But I think what's interesting about it, I think that for the most part, like, yeah, it's going to affect Philly, but I don't think that it's going to have like a huge effect, except for, not to bring this back to the conversation we were just having, but with LeBron and free agency, Philly is one of the teams that has a very high chance of getting him. And I think that this puts Philly in a lot of people are like, oh, this happened and now he's never going to go to Philly. Well, they fired him. So the problem is now gone. What this does is it puts Philly in a really powerful position where they can go to LeBron and be like, who do you want in this position? If you sign with us, we will hire whoever you want. And I guarantee you they've already gone to him and told him that. And if they haven't, he knows they're going to. Like, so I think that actually helps them, or potentially. I mean, if he signs with them, then obviously it helps, but it definitely helps their chances.
I really think that he's going to choose a place next that has a really good front office, because I think he wants to learn how to be an executive and an owner. And so I think he's going to choose a place where he can learn from the best. I'm not sure where that's going to be, but let's end up this discussion by talking about some of the free agency predictions that we think might happen, because we do have a guest tonight. We're going to run an interview with somebody from the Lakers. They have a huge potentially a huge summer ahead of them. They have a lot of cap space, more than most people's, enough that they could even potentially clear room to get 2 max. So we do talk about that in the interview. We talk a lot about, LeBron coming, but what are some of the other predictions that you have with some of the big free agents this summer?
Yeah, I feel like every time I have this conversation, I confuse myself more and change my mind. Like I honestly, I think that it's just, there are so many possibilities that are reasonable, that I honestly like.
You think they're going to do the reasonable thing?
Yeah. Hopefully not. I'm hoping. All season I was saying I want LeBron to stay in Cleveland, but now I don't want him to. I think he deserves much better than that. So I obviously there's no way he is staying. But I would love to see him go to Philly. That's my first choice.
What about Paul George?
See, to be honest, I don't really care where he goes. I'm a fan of Paul George, but for some reason, I just don't really care where he ends up. I don't think he's going to make a huge impact alone on a team. But I think he's in the Lakers. I think that's really the only one that's like a pretty for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just hoping that there's some. I mean, I'm sure there will be some crazy things that happen and unexpected things, and I hope, as much as everyone's like, oh, these teams, like super teams build them, I really hope that there are some big moves that happen that don't cause super teams. Like obviously, wherever LeBron goes, it's probably going to turn into a super team. But I hope that some other players move around or trades happen that help to kind of at least even out some teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's just my biggest like hope for the season, is that happens, because that's what's going to help make the league more fun to watch and everything. So I'm hoping that happens.
Do you think Kawhi stays, or do you think he gets traded?
I don't know. I think they just had a meeting with him, or I think Pop called a meeting with him.
They're supposed to have a meeting.
Yeah, supposed to. So I think after reports about that, I'm sure stuff will come out about that. So I think after that, then maybe I'll
have a better read.
Yeah, have more of an opinion. But I don't know. I think that's a really interesting situation, because I feel like there's so much we don't know, mm-hmm. that it's really hard to judge that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, real hard to tell.
Yeah, because then it's like, I don't see them really wanting to trade him, but at the same time, like, there obviously is some weird stuff going on that we really don't know about. So who knows?
Yeah, I think it'll be I bet you he ends up staying in San Antonio. I think it's amazing that there's even this much excitement around the possibility of him leaving, because San Antonio is really usually so, like, I don't want to say boring, because they're excellent, but they're like not super exciting. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that there's any intrigue at all around Kawhi is pretty remarkable, I would say.
Yeah.
What about one last thing? What do you think about some of the Blazers who are restricted free agents? So we've got Pat Connaughton, Shabazz Napier, Nurkic, and then Ed Davis is a full on free agent. Thoughts on what the Blazers do with any of their players? Yeah,
I mean, I think we talked about this maybe like a month ago.
Right, but everything changes.
Yeah. I think as far as the Blazers go, I feel like they're one of the teams that nothing really has changed, which I don't know if that's good or bad in the past month. I think it's just nothing really has happened.
There's definitely been rumors out of Bosnia about Nurkic that there's a deal in place, but I don't know how much of that is because of translation confusion, because everybody's like getting it out of Google Translate. And I actually sent a clip of it, to my friend who is Bosnian, and I was like, what do you think this says? And she's like, yeah, it seems like they're saying that Nurk has a deal, but he can't sign it until July 1. And then a couple days later, another one comes out, and I think it's all like, it all sounds like everybody is just kind of repeating like what the CBA rules are.
Yeah.
And that's getting like somehow quoted by big basketball people in Bosnia. So I don't really think we're any closer to knowing what's going to happen. But it's all fascinating, and by the next time we talk, possibly there will have been some trades. I think the draft is that's less than 10 days away, so the draft will be happening. That is exciting. But yeah, anything else you want to bring up, or should we just go ahead and talk about our guest?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, we were lucky enough to talk tonight to Sabreena Merchant. She is a writer for Silver Screen and Roll. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a Lakers blog. We invited a Laker fan to come on, Laker writer. She writes for their blog, like I said, to come on and talk about some of the things that the Lakers are looking at. I think it's a fascinating culture down there around Laker fans, because they're so entrenched. They have so much history, with the Showtime Lakers. She goes back all the way to the Showtime Lakers. So she talks about, some of the things that people are looking forward to in this offseason, some of the things that are the hot topics among Laker fans. I just thought it was really interesting and really fun to just like get a glimpse of what this kind of legendary fan base is thinking. And oh, content warning, she does talk about a certain Western Conference Finals game. So if that disturbs you, you may want to fast forward, to about halfway through the interview, because she does bring it up, and it is somewhat traumatic, but we get through it. We work through it. So without any further delay, let's go ahead and run our talk with Sabreena Merchant.
Welcome, Sabreena. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So can you first start off by telling us how you first got into basketball?
I've been into basketball my entire life. My parents moved to LA during the 80s, right around the height of the Showtime Lakers. So my brother and I were pretty much dressed in Laker onesies as kids, and it's just been a part of the family our entire lives.
So did you play basketball growing up, or were you just primarily a fan?
I used to play basketball, but it became clear very early that I had no handle or hand-eye coordination. So I spent more of my time on the bench than actually playing. But it hasn't diminished how much I love watching it.
So the Lakers obviously have a bid summer coming up, or potentially a very big summer coming up with free agency. Do you have kind of any goals? Just starting off of like, what kind of do you want this summer to look like for the team?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it's been a big summer to look forward to for the last 4 or 5 years, so it doesn't turn out the same way the rest of those did. I mean, obviously, any NBA fan knows that the Lakers are targeting LeBron James or Paul George and anybody else who will deign to take a meeting with us. I think most Laker fans are average case scenario is hoping to get Paul George, and LeBron would be the gravy on top of that. But I think the expectation in LA is that we will get somebody good this year to pair with our young talent, and it's going to be a hard pill to swallow if that doesn't happen.
So there have been a lot of rumors recently, obviously, as there always are. But specifically, I know today one of the big ones is that people think maybe Kevin Durant is going to team up with LeBron and go to the Lakers, or it's there's been rumors that LeBron has been reaching out to Chris Paul to try to go to the Lakers. And what do you kind of think of all those things? Do you, as a fan, do you listen to it, or do you just kind of ignore it and think that like it's a ridiculous like dream that is not going to happen?
Honestly, one of my favorite parts about the NBA is this offseason, the silly season, how much fun fans have tracking everything that goes on with the players and their, private lives. I remember a few years ago, we were, tracking the flight plans of LeBron's plane to figure out where he was making his decision. And like now we're keeping tabs on where LeBron's kids may or may not be attending school as a bad indicator of him joining the Lakers. So I think, yeah, definitely the fans are picking up on every little kernel that they can to just discern any possible clues to see if the free agents are going to come here. I mean, the Durant thing doesn't seem as plausible to me, just because why would you leave a 2-time defending champion to come join the Lakers? But, just say the word banana boat and you'll get a lot of Lakers fans thinking about the rest of those guys.
I have a question for you, Sabreena. As a longtime fan, you mentioned, a couple summers ago, some of the, tracking the flights and everything like that. I wonder if you could share some of your favorite memories, either in season or off season, that you've experienced with the Lakers.
You mean like from a transaction perspective, or
just in general, like for the team in general, like or your involvement with the team, or you as a fan, or just specific moves that you remember, or just kind of like what are some of the things that, like, when people ask you, what do you love about the Lakers and what do you remember in all your years as a fan?
Well, this probably won't go over so well with your Portland fan base.
Oh no, you can delete. I know where you're going.
Year that really cemented my fandom was 2000.
I don't know what you're talking about. That never happened.
When people ask me what my favorite play is from the Lakers, I'm going to shout.
Oh, why did you let me ask that question, Kendyl?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been involved really writing about the Lakers that much, so more of my experiences involved as a fan. But I mean, more recently, I know, I don't know how this was received like around the league, but I loved watching Kobe's last game. I mean, so much of my life has been growing up with watching him as a Laker, and seeing him go out like that with 60 points and the refs refusing to call any moving screens and the entire offense being directed towards him was a blast. And I mean, I think one of the things I love about this current team is just that we have so many young guys who have the potential to turn into something special. And I'm just really excited for the potential that we have going forward. I mean, it's been a few dark years, where it just seemed like we were signing a bunch of guys on 1-year flyers and you didn't know what the team was going to look like from 1 year to the next. So now just having some consistency from 1 year to the next is it's really exciting.
So speaking of the young guys, someone who obviously is a very big name around the league is Lonzo Ball. So kind of around the league, I feel like he isn't very popular for the average NBA fan. He's not someone that he's kind of almost like one of the villains of the league now. Yeah, whether or not he hasn't really done that, it's obviously been LeVar, his dad. But as a Laker fan, what is kind of the view of him as fans of the team?
Well, just to start with Lonzo, I think it's kind of crazy that we even ended up with him. Just watching him in LA when he was at UCLA and thinking like, oh, wouldn't this be a fun guy to have on the Lakers? And then the Lakers actually keeping their pick, with all of the protections associated with that awful trade, and then using it to draft Lonzo. It just seems kind of crazy to me that it all happened. Like, I remember talking with my friends during his UCLA season, like, how much fun would it be to have this guy, and not actually thinking that it would ever come to fruition, because just never happens that the guys you target in college are the ones that end up on your team. So, I mean, I think it's pretty cool that he ended up on the Lakers to begin with. And I think among Laker fans, there's an acknowledgement that he really had the best rookie season out of him, Kuzma, and Hart. And it's just a matter of time before the rest of the national consciousness sort of catches up with that, once his dad fades out of the picture a little bit. Generally, I think we're all pretty happy with how his rookie season went, injuries aside. And he's really like the flagship of that rookie class heading forward.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of his dad, he, I know recently or today, he went on a couple like the Fox Sports shows and talked about how the three of his sons are going to play together. And if the Lakers don't sign all three of them, then Lonzo's going to walk away. As a fan, that I think, whether or not that has any facts backing that, or if that's actually going to happen, just as a fan hearing that, what does that kind of make you feel about maybe their loyalty to the organization and just the willingness to just get up and walk away, or for him to at least be threatening that?
Yeah, I will say that nothing has ever made me question Lonzo's loyalty to the Lakers. I mean, his dad obviously has done a tremendous job marketing the family and capitalizing on the momentum that his sons have currently. but I honestly, most of the people that I associate with, like, were not very concerned about Lonzo's relationship with the Lakers. Coaches seem to love him. He seems to love his teammates, and like obviously just the contract machinations make no sense that LeVar's talking about. So it's not something that I'm terribly concerned with. Although I will say I did enjoy it far more when LeVar was in Lithuania. It was a lot less drama.
Yeah, I'm sure Magic Johnson did too. Sure he definitely enjoyed that more.
Yeah.
I want to kind of jump in with another question about the younger players. I'm wondering if you could talk about, there's a lot of, like we said, a lot of rumors swirling about the off season and a lot of machinations that may happen in order to bring in some really big names. There may be trades involved. What are your thoughts on which of the younger players are most likely to remain Lakers and which ones are most likely, in your opinion, to be possibly traded?
Right. So I think that there's certain tiers of prospects that the Lakers have. So that tier 1 would be Lonzo and Brandon Ingram. And I think that the only way that either of those get moved is if a superstar is coming back. They wouldn't be attached to any contracts to like clear cap space or anything of that sort. It would just be like, oh, let's say the Spurs want to trade Kawhi Leonard, then that's a piece that you would ship out. So I'm fairly confident that Lonzo and Brandon Ingram wouldn't be part of any smaller trade discussions. As far as the other players, like Kyle Kuzma and Josh Hart and Thomas Bryant, I could theoretically see them being attached to, let's say, Luol Deng's contract to make cap space. But again, I don't think that's the kind of deal that the Lakers would do unless they were certain that they had something to do with that space. So I'm not too concerned about losing any of those young guys because I think that even if we lost them, they'd be replaced with something much better. I generally have a good deal of faith in this front office from the deals they've made so far. So,
yeah, what do you think about Rob Pelinka as a GM?
So to be honest, I was pretty skeptical when they first got the job. Just the timing of the move, like the week of the trade deadline to axe your general manager is odd, to say the least. But I mean, all they've done so far is just make really quality signings and really quality trades, like from acquiring a first rounder for Lou Williams. And I mean, I know a lot of people weren't big fans of the D'Angelo Russell trade. I've never been a huge Russell fan myself, so I really liked that deal. And then obviously this latest deal with Cleveland where they managed to turn Jordan Clarkson into a first round draft pick was pretty marvelous. So I'm a fan. I think he's proven that he's more than capable of being a general manager in this league.
So on that Cleveland trade, obviously you guys got Isaiah Thomas in that. Mm-hmm. He has been very vocal about saying he wants to stay with the Lakers and is also looking for a max contract, which the chances of that happening are obviously very slim. But as kind of in this environment, do you think that he is going to stick around? Like, do you think they're going to try to keep him, or do you just see them not even making an attempt?
Well, I mean, if the Lakers acquire LeBron James, then I don't think Isaiah Thomas will be sticking around. We've already seen how that works out.
Yeah.
But I do think that the team sees him as someone who could be a solid backup point guard to Lonzo, but I don't think they have any interest in him beyond that. It's kind of a shame. There are a few players in the league who I feel, I mean, obviously they're all basketball players and have really been very successful at what they do. It's just you really feel for a guy like Isaiah who seemed like he was on track to really cash in and just all sort of gotten taken away from him.
Yeah, I mean, you see all the time people saying how he went from like the hero in Boston and was this like loved player to being one of the most hated players in the league within like 6 months. And yeah, you don't see that ever.
I always felt a personal kinship to Isaiah Thomas because both of our fathers lost bets during the 1989 NBA Finals. Of course, it didn't affect my name, but
what are some of the little lesser known stories about some of the players on the Lakers team right now that fans outside of the Los Angeles don't really know? Like, what are some of the fun stories or interesting backstories about some of the players?
I think Kyle Kuzma is just a really wonderful personality that the Lakers have on their team. his mom is just a wonderful Twitter presence. She's great. She's always behind him and always hyping him up, and has a really great Twitter account if you ever want to follow Carrie Kuzma, LA Laker Kuz's mom on Twitter. They also, I mean, all of the youngins really have a really great Twitter back and forth, specifically Kuzma and Josh Hart. There's some fun bit when they were playing Fortnite, and they were making a joke about how they couldn't say that the game was rated PG-13 because that could be considered tampering. And it was, yeah, the youngins have a really, really nice Twitter back and forth, especially like Hart and Kuzma, and Lonzo gets in on there every once in a while too.
So today, actually, obviously, you probably know, like, Lonzo dropped his diss track about Kyle Kuzma, and tomorrow, I guess, Kyle Kuzma's coming out with his. Initially, when I heard this, I thought it was very lighthearted, and even after hearing it, I kind of still thought that. And then, obviously, LeVar went on TV today and said that they're not very close. So I feel like that's very contradictory to everything that they've portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
So what, can you speak on that at all, and kind of what you think about that?
I mean, I don't know them personally, but every indication I've gotten is that the Lakers young guys are obviously very close. And I mean, one of my friends actually put it best, like, how many dads really know, like, how close their 20-year-old kids are with all of their group of friends, you know? Like, it's just something he's sort of thrown out there, right? Like, I mean, think about, like, your parents always had, like, a bit of a lag time when you stopped hanging out with people or you started hanging out with people, right?
They're asking you about, like, your friend from 7th grade. They're like, what happened to Sharon? You're like, I haven't seen Sharon in 5 years.
Again, LeVar's really good at getting his name out there and getting people to talk about him. So.
How much of that do you think is an act by LeVar? And, you know, because every once in a while there'll be a story that'll come out about, you know, some of the really nice and kind and genuine things that he does that are under the radar for some of the kids. Is that something that people in LA talk much about? Or is it just like, oh, he's a loudmouth and we just let him go?
I think we mostly just talk about the loudmouth, speak it into existence, LeVar Ball, right? But I mean, I just think it's a character. You know, he's got this opportunity and he's taking full advantage of it, right?
Do you have Lonzo Ball's shoes?
I don't have that kind of money, honestly.
Are you a shoe collector?
No, not really.
I keep thinking I want to learn more about that's something that I have never understood. And I keep thinking I want to learn more about it, but it's like there's like a million other things I want to learn more about. Actually, I have one that I want to ask you guys, if you guys can, if anyone can explain to me the Uncle Drew movie. Like, what's the deal with that movie? What am I missing? I don't get it.
I have no idea. I mean, I remember when the Uncle Drew commercial first came out and, like, it was a secret, like, whose identity it was. Like, I didn't even understand the deal behind that because, like, I went to Duke with Kyrie Irving actually at the same time. So, like, I mean, I don't understand his personality, like, one bit. So,
yeah, I know. And, like, why would he do this movie? I don't understand it.
And there are, like, legit NBA stars in this movie too, right? Like, and Lisa Leslie's in it as well, right? Like,
yeah, I can explain a little bit. So it's actually the character Uncle Drew came from Kyrie did a Pepsi commercial like 5 or 6 years ago, and he played this character in the commercial. He was like the Uncle Drew that was like really good at basketball and like showed all the young kids up, and it blew up and people loved it. And now, I mean, people are upset. Like it just brought up so much that they just turned it into a movie. So it's, yeah, I mean, there's not really a whole lot backing it up of like the meaning behind it or anything. It was just kind of a funny thing. But yeah, the cast is crazy. Like Shaq is in it. Like Reggie Miller, like Tiffany Haddish. Like, it's crazy.
Well, I'll try to bring us back to reality because that's not, is that being released this week? It's coming, like I saw some previews came from it, but it is not actually in my world yet. So I'll have to wait until I can watch the Uncle Drew movie.
Yeah, it comes out in like 2 weeks.
I'm pretty certain I'll end up watching it.
Yeah.
But I have another question about the Lakers, and that is, how is the relationship between Coach Walton? Is he solidly, like, you know, the fact that they haven't made the playoffs in the last couple of years, like they're not holding, you know him like to some other standard, they're like, no, we understand you're going to work it out with this group. Like what are things like with Coach Walton?
Right. So I think you always worry when a head coach gets hired and then the general manager that hired him gets fired, So it's always important to point out that Luke Walton was not hired by Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, and that could create some discomfort. But I think the fact that obviously nothing was really expected of the team in Luke's first season, and this year they, their win total improved to 35 wins, and it was, by all accounts, a massive jump from the year before. So I think the expectations are measured. Magic and Pelinka know what they're working with, and they see the progress that the young players have made, and they see like the beginnings of a system being outlined. I think the fact that Luke managed to coerce an above average defense out of this Laker team is a real feather in his cap. So I don't think that there's any pressure, for Walton being on the hot seat because he hasn't made the playoffs in the first 2 seasons. Obviously, like with the plans that they have this summer, the expectations could jump dramatically for next year, but I think he's solidly secure right now.
I'm also curious about your owner. So for people who don't know much about the Buss family, maybe you could tell us a little bit about Jeanie Buss and the family, and then talk about kind of their relationship with the city and with the team and what they mean to the fan base.
Right. Absolutely. So Jerry Buss was the owner of the Lakers dating back to the 70s, and he was, by all accounts, he's one of the gold standards of ownership, not only in basketball but in professional sports. And when he passed away in 2013, he left the team in the control of his 6 children. And he put his son, Jim, in charge of the basketball operations, and his daughter, Jeanie, in charge of the non-basketball side of the Lakers. So essentially that didn't really work. Jeanie and Jim didn't have the best working relationship. And so she fired him in 2017. And now it was her decision to hire Magic Johnson, Rob Pelinka, and she takes a much more active role in basketball operations. Laker fans seem to have an undying love for Jeanie Buss. Like, she is the closest link we'd have, to Jerry Buss. She has a great relationship with all the players. She has a great relationship with Walton, and I think people are pretty happy with the way the situation went down. But you always wonder, if the magic of the Lakers can be recaptured without Jerry Buss. There's a little inkling that maybe there isn't LA magic. It was just Jerry Buss magic. So hopefully Jeanie can maintain some of that.
Is she, do either of you know, is she the only female majority owner in the league? I should have looked that up before we started.
I think she's the only one that sits at the Board of Governors meetings.
Okay, so it goes to the owner meetings where all the when they sit and make big decisions.
Right.
Got it. I have one last Laker related question, and that is, last summer at Summer League there was a very important championship game between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Portland Trailblazers. It was very exciting. It's really the only championship that I paid attention to this last 24 or those last 12 months. Are you expecting a return to the championship, and do you think they have it in them to defend it, especially if the Trailblazers make it there as well?
I cannot overstate to you how exciting it was to watch the Summer League last season. Literally the first play of their first Summer League game was a lob from Lonzo to Brandon Ingram, and literally every single Laker fan was just, oh, playoffs, we got this. But Lonzo's not playing this year. Kyle Kuzma's not playing this year. I look forward to seeing, Josh Hart and Thomas Bryant and whoever the Lakers can secure with their 2 draft picks this year. But also our Summer League coach, Jed Bushler took a job at the Knicks, so he's also gone. So it might not be quite as successful of a Summer League for the Lakers this year.
Who do you think, do they know who's going to be the coach yet? Or they'll probably just announce that right beforehand, huh?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Well, that is exciting. And I go to Summer League every year, and I this was hard for me to confess to all of my diehard Blazer fan friends, but I love going to the Laker games at Summer League because, they pack the arena, It's loud. It's like a regular NBA game. It's just fun. And I just have, I really like Brandon Ingram for some reason. The first year I saw him in Summer League, I really liked him. He was like a little deer out there with his long legs and his short shorts. And, you know, like he's just up there a little bit unsteady on his feet. And well, and he really improved so much from year 1 to year 2.
Agreed. I think I heard Ramona Shelburne call him like spaghetti dribbling meatballs once.
That's great.
It's a great image to describe Brandon Ingram.
That's hilarious. And like, I swear every time I watch a Laker game, either his legs get longer or his shorts get shorter or both. They just like, his legs are up to his neck right now. They're so, I mean, that kid has so much length. And it sounds like you feel like he's pretty safe to remain a part of the franchise, no matter what type of wheel, for the most part, no matter what type of wheeling and dealing they do this summer.
I mean, again, the only way I could say moving is if, you know, Greg Popovich called up and said that Kawhi was available. You know, That's literally the only option.
Mm-hmm. Kendyl, do you have any more questions?
No, I think we covered everything.
Cool. Well, if there's anything else you want to share, otherwise we'll move to our the usual last question that we ask is, who is a woman that you admire in basketball?
So this honestly like changes for me like on an hourly basis. But currently I really love Becky Hammon. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really, you know, brave of her when she got locked out of the U.S. team to, you know, go play for Russia and figure out a way to get involved in international basketball. And now obviously she's the only woman on an NBA bench, which is super cool. And she never makes a big deal about the fact that she's a woman. You know, she just goes about and does her business. And you know, she's won a Summer League title too, which is big in my book. Yeah, so she'd be the one right now.
It goes Summer League titles, NBA championships, and then like MVP. Like those are like, that's the ranking of all the awards that can be that can be won or given out over the course of an NBA season. I'm with you on that. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was great to talk to you, learn a little bit more about the Lakers. If people want to find work that you do or follow you on social media, how can they find you?
Well, you can read me at Silver Screen and Roll, which is the Lakers SB Nation site. And you can follow me on Twitter at Sabreena JM.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry I brought up some old Blazers memories.
Oh, you had to bring it up again. I had just forgotten it. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
That will do it for this edition of Women's Hoops and Talks, the What Podcast. We are hosted by Blazers Edge, which is part of the Almighty Baller Radio Network. If you like what you heard, please go to the Blazers Edge podcast feed on iTunes or Stitcher and subscribe, rate, and review. We release new episodes of the What Podcast every other Thursday on that Blazers Edge podcast feed. If you just want to get notified when the What Podcast episodes are released, you can follow us on Twitter at Hoops and Talks. I'm on Twitter at TCBBigs. That's a lot of B's and G's. So you could also just go to Google and type in Team Mom Rip City, and my Twitter page should pop right up at the top. And Kendyl is also on Twitter. She is at KendylBennett16. Thanks a lot for listening to us this week, and we will talk to you in just a couple weeks. Thanks for joining us.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.